as beneficiaries of the treaty, must recognize our responsibilities, including our collective responsibilities to the land and water. Mr. Mayor, we do not have a supplementary agenda this evening. Rules for the council chambers. The municipality of Chatham-Kent supports open meetings that welcome debate of public policy issues in an atmosphere of inclusiveness, integrity, and civility, fairness and respect in differing points of view. Anyone conducting themselves in a way that disturbs, disrupts, or impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting, interrupts or makes derogatory statement or hate speech, defamatory comments about councillors, staff, speakers, or fellow members of the public may result in the removal from the premises. We ask that you do not approach members of council if they are seated in their council seats around the council horseshoe. The use of posters, signage, and literature is also prohibited. Mr. Mayor, we have one disclosure of pecuniary interest, and that is by Councillor Wright for item 16B, the contract award T24-152, snow removal and winter maintenance. We'll move on to recognitions, and I'll pass it over to the Mayor for the artist feature.
Thanks, Madam Clerk. I want to bring everybody's attention to the west wall over here. A lot of behind you, but I'm pointing over that way. A beautiful piece of art, and I just want to give a little bit of a bio of the artists that we're highlighting this month. As you know, each and every month we highlight various individuals across Chatham-Kent that are arts, culture related. Excited that there's so many amazing people in our community, and Lana is one of those. So I'm going to read a little bio on her, and then I'm going to ask her to stand. I told her I was going to ask her to do some cartwheels, but if you can't, you can just wave. So Lana Matskiv and her daughter came to Canada in late August of 1991 with only $6 cash in hand. It was a rough start. She struggled to achieve her goals in Canada, notwithstanding recovering from the circumstances in what was then the Soviet Union, now Ukraine. She left behind a career of a journalist, writer, and artist. She recognized the value of opportunities found in Canada and stayed to pursue her dreams. In 1993, she completed her MA degree from the University of Toronto and started her career at the RCMP, Combined Forces Special Enforcement Unit. Shortly thereafter, she met her Ukrainian husband, also a new immigrant in Toronto. Together, they raised their Canadian-born daughter, Jacqueline, established a business and capitalized on every chance to build a meaningful life offered by their new country. 7 years ago, Lana walked away in her successful legal career and fully dedicated herself to art. In August of 2023, together with her husband, she moved to Chatham-Kent to settle down in what she describes as her true home on the city's prettiest street, Victoria Avenue. Lana is a prolific artist with a long list of international and Canadian exhibitions with competition awards to her professional credit. She's an exhibiting member of the Federation of Canadian Artists, as well as the Thames Gallery and Art Space in Chatham-Kent. Active in her Ukrainian community, Lana is an exhibiting member of the Association of Ukrainian Visual Artists of Canada and serves as a board member of the Shevchenko Ukrainian Museum of Canada in Toronto. Tonight featured for council is the first work by Lana Matskiv, inspired by Chatham lore, entitled Priestess of Chatham Crows. It is an oil on canvas, 48-inch by 48-inch, and painted from a life model, Miss Jasmine Miller, an assistant branch manager at RBC and chairperson of the Canadian Kent Integrated Children's Foundation Board. The background features the old city courthouse and jail, as well as a little forgotten fountain on the lawn next to it. On the right side of the painting, you can see the vistas of the Thames River. So I'd really like to welcome you to our community. Lana, I'd like to stand up and would love to appreciate your amazing art.
We'll move on to the second recognition this evening, the recognition of the Chatham-Kent Barnstormers.
So it was several years ago, we started the talks of a baseball team coming to Chatham-Kent. I worked with Dom a lot, then COVID hit, and that obviously slowed things down. So we went through a lot, and this year was our first year collectively in Chatham-Kent. And so we just wanted to recognize the amazing contributions you made to our community. That when we look at you had almost 1,000 people per game show up, and you had an 18-game home schedule? 21 game home schedule and a playoff game. So the amount of people that came there, and there was literally thousands of different people that came, proved a huge success for Chatham-Kent. We want to recognize that. We're super excited about year two. We know that there's seating issues that you need to deal with, and we look forward to working with you to make that happen so we can have more people, more fans sitting down, because I know you had a large waiting list of people that wanted a seat, but you didn't have them to give them. So we just want to, and on behalf of the municipality of Chatham-Kent, I want to recognize you guys. And this is Matthew Naughty, by the way, a co-owner of the CK Barnstormers. So based on that, I'd love to just have you present this on behalf of everyone here, of the council and Chatham-Kent, for bringing another amazing thing to our community.
We prepared a little video. Almost every other game, our social media department's all volunteers. They're all local. I'm local myself. We love the support from the public service areas, everybody that helped us make this happen. Sure, we want more seats. It's a good problem to have. We love working with everybody in Kelly's team, and from what we gather, it looks like we're gonna have a long, fruitful relationship. So much appreciated, and thanks for everything.
Hello?
Good team, good win. Thank you.
So as well, I want to mention, they far exceeded, they finished 5th in the league of 9 teams. So coming as an expansion team, that is huge. Finishing 5th of 9 teams, making the playoffs. So it's all up from here, but congratulations on the new season. And if you could introduce your cohorts here, that'd be great.
So that clip was actually player of the game, Mitsuki Fukada. He came straight from Japan, is still living with us, hopefully be back with the team next year, and actually has fell very in favor with a local, so maybe he's here for maybe more than just baseball. But we have players from all over. We're allowed 5 people internationally, but we really made the season happen with local talent, and some CMBA product right here is Greg Kemble and Garrett Day. They're local guys, and we love their input, attitude, and they're great ambassadors of the community and the sport, and without them, we don't have the season we do. So it's all because of them that we're here today.
Mr. Mayor, this evening we have no deputations that were received for any items on the current agenda. Moving on to the consent agenda. The following reports have been pulled from the consent agenda this evening to be voted on separately. Item 16A, request for proposal award R24-261 Transitional Cabins Chatham Project. Item 16B, contract T24-152 Snow Removal and Winter Maintenance has been pulled due to a conflict of interest by Councillor Wright. Item 16C, RFP Award Contract R24-217, Queens Line and Merlin Road Intersection Improvements. Item 17A, the Wheatley Revitalization Update, September 2024, has been pulled by a presentation from staff. Item 18A, Chatham-Kent Dreamfield Project Update, it's an information report pulled by Councillor Jubenville. And item 21A, strong mayor powers update, pulled by Councillor Jubenville. Therefore, the remaining reports will go on the consent agenda to be voted for in one motion. Item 15A, 16B, oh, sorry, that was pulled. 16D, 18B, 19A, 20A, and 21B.
Councillor Bondi and Councillor Finn, can I have you put this on the floor, please?
Yes, sir, so moved.
So seconded.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 16-0. Moving on to item 16A, request for proposal award R24-261 Transitional Cabins Chatham Project.
Councillor Story and Councillor Jubenville, can I get you to put this on the floor, please?
Have been moved, Mr. Chair.
And seconded.
Councillor Story, then I'll go to you, Councillor Jubenville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a couple of questions on this project. I'm encouraged to see it going forward. Obviously symptomatic of an issue that communities are facing across North America. I did see an interesting article. The city of Peterborough has also constructed 50 transitional cabins last year, and so they're a few months ahead of us, and it looks like theirs is going relatively well. So I hope we can model our success, if that is the right term in this context, and learn from their experiences. I've just a couple of quick questions around cost. Peterborough's total costs seem a fair bit lower than ours in this report, and if I'm reading their details correctly, they also did include construction totals or construction costs in their totals. Is that simply a symptom of what we're seeing across the board with costs, where everything is going up, and this is how much the price has increased on these cabins and on the servicing between now and 2023?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ray Harper, Director of Municipal Housing Development. And thank you, Councillor, for the question. It's not exactly apples to apples comparison. So certainly there are some various factors such as inflation to consider. But site servicing is an important factor because it's different costs and different amounts of work are going to be dependent on what the conditions are on the selected site. And then I know that there has been questions about previous costs, but the acquisition of the cabins from the RFP process is actually lower than what was anticipated in the January report.
Thank you. Will the tenants or the residents of these cabins be paying any fees for their residency there?
Yes, the tenants will be charging the maximum rate under OW and ODSB, and that equates to approximately of $234,000 of rental payments, rental revenue per year.
Okay, so it'll be based on Ontario Disability and Ontario Works, so they will be paying to live there. Appreciating this is an RFP report versus a operational one, but do we have any sense right now about the operational costs for this site? I do see that Peterborough's operating costs appear to be around $2 million, although they have contracted another organization, community organization, to operate it. Do we have a sense of our operating costs moving forward and whether or not they'll be around the same as the Victoria Park Place?
Yeah, our estimates right now are about $2.2 million per year after accounting for the rental revenues. With regards to operating and someone else operating, we've tried to RFP in the past to have another agency run this type of development, but we were unfortunate, didn't get any successful bids or any respondents to those.
So we did seek out community partners, but none came forward at this time.
That's correct.
Last but not least, and maybe this is a Gord question, but is it safe to say, since we have not received any provincial funding for this, even though it's provincial responsibility to be addressing issues like homelessness and affordable housing, we're basically adding debt because the province has not come to the table to assist us. Is that a correct assumption?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, at this point in time, there's been no commitment from upper levels to fund the capital portion at all, which is what the tender is about tonight. But I do know, Jody's not here tonight, but I know she is working with her ministries to try to secure funding. Whether we have any updates prior to our budget update or prior to them being completed next May, we'll for sure bring that to council and make those adjustments at the time. But as a backup, assuming that we get no funding from upper levels, because there's been nothing committed to date, this needs to be funded, and it's something that we all recognized when we did the multi-year budget, that this was we had only funded the shelter in its current location up to May 2025, and that this would be a future budget impact.
Thank you. Just to close by saying, when we went to the AMO in Ottawa a few weeks ago, this was basically the top priority for every single municipality in Ontario, and I just want to stress the importance of the province realizing the extreme need in Chatham-Kent and other municipalities, and I really hope our provincial counterparts hear our cries for help and come back to the table and support us. Thank you, Ray, and Josh and the team for all your work on this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Juneville?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Just a couple questions, Ray. Will this help to ease the issue surrounding the encampments? Will people who are currently not allowed to go into the homeless shelter, will they be able to access these cabins? Will they be treated a little bit differently, do you think?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Josh Myers, Director of Housing Operations. These cabins do present a more accessible option. So there are pros to that, which we presented originally in January, that a shelter and then the environment that comes with the shelter is just not conducive. So from an accessibility standpoint, and what the case law in Waterloo has pointed to, this will get us closer to that, but this is also replacing our current shelter operations. So as the need continues to increase year over year, we're not able to catch up to that need at this time.
Thank you, Josh. And I know it's been said before, but just to reiterate, how can we control that people who neither hail or live in Chatham-Kent or have true familial ties to Chatham-Kent, how do we prevent them from accessing these cabins? Because it's strictly for people from Chatham-Kent, correct? Thank you.
Yes, so similar to the earlier question about Max Ontario Works and Ontario disability rates, we do have access to a provincial database. And so for our municipally funded programs, we are very clear when someone is contacting us that it is for CK residents who have a familial background or a residency background in the community. For others that are not from the community, we work with them to offer them a voluntary transportation back to their home communities. This will continue for the site.
Thank you, Josh and Ray.
Councillor Bondi, followed by Councillor Sakachi.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Hi, Ray. How many people currently live in the shelter? Like, not live, but, sleep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Currently, we have 44 beds, but we also assist families. So on any given day, if you're watching our social media, I believe last night we were supporting 50 households. So that would be the six families plus 44 individuals in beds. We're full most nights.
Okay. Thank you. The cabins, will there be more than one occupant, or are they singles or doubles? Or?
Yeah, this is where that accessibility piece comes in. If someone presents as a couple, and they choose they want the one cabin together, that's fine. We'll support them in that one cabin. So although there's 50 cabins, we could have up to, 70 people depending on personal circumstances.
Okay, and as we know, this problem is probably going to increase rather than decrease in the coming years or so. Is there any talk or thought of expanding this? Because it's only going to barely handle where we are right now, right? So,
The challenge I have with talking about expanding this specific program at this time is this is supposed to be at the bottom end of our continuum. I would rather make recommendations, or I would make recommendations to support supportive housing like Indwell and getting those partners at the table so we can get people out of cabins and get them into the long-term supports that they need. But to your point, as this gets worse, I expect that we'll have other recommendations based on our financial reality and depending on hopefully new partnerships from the province or federal government on what services we can provide.
Thank you. One other quick question, comment. This is going to sound the wrong way, but I've done that a million times. But like this seems like a pretty good gig. Like if you're staying at a men's mission in, say, London, Ontario, which I worked at as a university student, it was not a nice place, like at all. And it was dorm rooms. It's probably not still existing, so it was 30 years ago. But is there any concern that, you know, we're going to become more attractive? Because certainly there's definitely people that are bussed in. I'll just tell you a quick story. I was cutting my grass about a week and a half ago, and a woman came up and said, "Can I have a glass of water?" I live on a busy street. And my wife was out of town. So I said, "Yeah, sure." My kids were home. So she came back. I made her some hot dogs, a couple of Coca-Cola. She went for a swim. And I just wanted to get to know her and to talk to her. And she spent about an hour with me and little Bridget. And she told me that there's busloads of people coming in from Toronto. So can we legally discriminate against somebody that doesn't live here? Because, like, I don't have a Chatham-Kent passport. So if I move to Sarnia, pardon? Yeah. So how do you, I don't know, how do you, like what determines a Chatham-Kent resident? How long do I have to live here to be considered a Chatham-Kent resident? Or even if I'm living outside?
So okay, I'm going to attempt to answer that in two different ways. So with respect to services, if someone calls the homeless response line right now and they report that they're homeless and they're in need of services, we are going to go through a script with them and answer different questions. Someone could falsify that report and they'll access services. But because we're also a housing focused shelter, we're going to immediately refer them or connect them with a case manager or a shelter lead who has access to that provincial database, because we have to be talking to you about what is your income, because how are we going to solve your homelessness if we don't know your income? That gives us the facts that we need to better understand. Are you a CK resident? And if you're not, because our services are so limited, and this is a municipally funded, we do make the decision that no, the only solution we can provide you is that transportation piece. Instead of looking at a timeline, because the timeline could be a year or 2 years, we can go back several years based on the information we have. And it's important for us to have those questions because we need to understand what led you to homelessness, what went wrong in your previous stay, so that we can work on real solutions. Instead of looking at the timeline, the questions go to what is your familial connection with the community? Because if you have no familial connection, you're starting here with nothing, you have no supports, that's also not going to be very easy for you to be successful. So we go through all of that with each person. The second piece to it, though, and what I think does happen is someone will find someone staying, let's say, in an encampment, not from the community, and they'll share that. And then that rumor is going to spread that there's busloads of people coming into the community from Toronto. There is no, as far as I'm aware, legal recourse for people to take somebody, force them on a bus, and move to another community. So from our perspective on a service side, our services at this time are designated for CK residents. But that's not to say that anyone from any community can go somewhere and stay outside. And I think that's part of the challenge with encampments. What we are seeing and what we're regularly asking with our outreach groups is, what is the status of that? And it's still in line with what we've always seen, which is less than 5% of folks that we know to be homeless are actually from other communities.
Okay, thanks. I'm surprised in Canada that that's not considered discriminatory because you weren't born and raised. But it is what it is, right? So thanks, that's a good answer. But back to the initial question, is there a concern that we're going to have an influx of people from other communities? Whether or not they get services, they're probably not aware of that because we're offering what would appear to be a pretty good situation. It's just an opinion question. It's not a factual thing, but is it anything that's been discussed?
Yeah, no, I think it's something that we would continue to report back on, and if we saw that influx. But given that that service is still going to be municipally operated and funded and still designated for CK residents, I don't see that this is going to all of a sudden spread across Ontario and that people are going to be looking to come here. Every Ontario community is struggling with this issue, and they're looking at similar options. And so, frankly, I would say Chatham-Kent, in knowing what my colleagues are doing across the province, we are severely underfunded for the programs we have, and there are likely more services in larger urban centers for various needs. So I do not see CK becoming a destination for services.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Councillor Sakachi, followed by Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I know it's unfortunate that we're talking about this matter in in Canada just to begin with, but I don't have any comments. I just know that the solutions are very difficult to discuss, and they're also very costly. But I just wanted to take a quick opportunity I know how much Ray, your team, Josh, how much your team has invested into these very difficult situations over the course of the last at least 6 years almost since I've been here on council, and how far we've come from an affordable housing standpoint. And I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to thank you both, your team. Nobody wants to see this kind of money being spent on something that we really should be getting from the upper levels of government, but we have no choice at this point. And you guys have done some absolutely amazing work in the community, and there's many families and many people that are going to be housed because of your hard work and your team's hard work. And that's a very hard conversation, but I just wanted to say thank you.
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thank you very much for this report and bringing this forward to us and allowing us the opportunity to provide some better housing. My question, and I guess it's probably just more of a comment, is that we talk about this with the encampments and with homelessness as well, that, I mean, federally and provincially, everyone has the right to shelter. So we have an obligation, regardless of what resources we have, to provide housing, whether they're from Chatham-Kent or not, right?
So with respect to declarations of human rights that Ontario and Canada has signed on, that is correct. But when I answer these questions, I also do so with respect to what are the service levels I can provide with the funding that I have. And the two do not match. We can sign on to the human rights and declare that's the case, but if the funding doesn't match it, then reality doesn't follow.
Thanks, Josh, and that's exactly what I wanted to kind of bring to light here, is that we do not have the funding from the province and the federal government to take all of this on as a municipality. So we're doing the best that we can, and I appreciate all the work that you and your team do. I'm happy to support this, and I hope that as time goes on, we continue to seek out things that we can do to prevent homelessness and to get people to be more healthy mentally, physically, emotionally, and then we won't require this much housing. But at this point, we do. And until we receive more funding for all of the above, these are the challenges that we continue to have. So thank you.
Seeing no other questions, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 15-1. 16B, Contract Award T24-152, Snow Removal and Winter Maintenance. Conflict by Councillor Wright.
Councillor Sakachi and Councillor Anderson, can I get you to put this on the floor, please?
So moved, Mayor Caniff.
And so seconded.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 15-0. 16C, RFP Award Contract R24-217, Queens Line and Merlin Road Intersection Improvements.
Councillor Anderson and Councillor Juvenile, can I get you to put this on the floor, please?
I'm happy to do that.
So seconded?
Councillor Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I just had a question from a local farmer about the timeline of when this was going to be started, and I just wanted to reiterate that the municipality has been in contact with a lot of the farmers and is working with them as far as dates go for getting their fields off and their winter wheat in. It looks like there could be a little bit of overlapping, but it does sound like it is one farmer that they'll be able to work with specifically to accommodate and assist with him being able to get winter wheat in. The deadline is November 1st, so it is just a very short window that there'll be some overlapping. But I just wanted to reiterate that these conversations are happening, and the municipality is very much willing to work with the farmers, and it sounds like it's a pretty good conversation back and forth that they're coming to some good agreements of when and how this is going to look.
Councillor Juvenville, followed by Councillor Story.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I've had quite a few constituents reach out to me with some grave concerns. The project started at 2.1 million, then escalated to 4.6. Now it's at almost 6.6 million because of the bridge work. Can we guarantee that this is the final cost that this project is going to be? Or should we prepare for the potential that it could be more? I wasn't part of council when the original motion went through to pass, but I know this is kind of a crazy thing, but is there any way to put this on hold until, it just seems like it keeps on blossoming, the price and the project and the expansiveness of it. Is there any way we can just put the project on hold at this time and revisit it? Is maybe traffic lights maybe a better avenue or a more cost-effective avenue to explore? I'm just exploring different end results to this because it just seems like it's getting out of hand financially.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start, and then I'm going to ask Marissa Mascara, the Director of Engineering, to provide some details as well. The project back in 2021, the initial estimate there was just for the roundabout, so 2.1 million. Since that time, the work has included the additional bridge itself, which is another $2 million. And then in terms of the escalating cost, there has been some inflation, but a lot of the work really is being driven by some of the requirements related to traffic that we're having our conversations with the Ministry of Transportation. This is an emergency detour route, and we have to be able to maintain traffic as much as we can. So that's kind of driving some of our costs here. I'll let maybe Marissa get into a little more of that detail, and then we'll circle back to your final question there.
Sure, yeah, just to add to what Mr. Soldo said, so certainly, this project started a few years ago. We have experienced inflation, so certainly in terms of kind of deferring the project, we don't expect that it would be cheaper to undertake in the future. This does include bridge work, at about $2 million, which we assessed and determined is necessary life cycle work and most efficient to undertake together with the intersection improvements. In terms of your question about guarantee or kind of confirmation of cost, so this is the point where we have the best comfort with costs now that we've done the detailed design and we've gone out for a construction procurement. This process was an RFP, not a tender, so it isn't just cost driven, it's driven by a contractor that understands how to undertake this work, which is really important. As Mr. Soldo noted, this is an EDR. It's important for us to maintain east-west traffic as best we can. We have to coordinate directly with the MTO. We also have to coordinate with adjacent property owners. So there's a lot of sensitivities, and so the construction procurement was an RFP to ensure that we would have a qualified contractor who would be able to undertake this in a proper way and has thought through the staging of it. There is a lot of that sensitivity. And we do have a construction contingency included of $500,000 in this construction procurement award that's in front of you as well to manage those unforeseens as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and maybe just to answer the last part of your question there. It's always council's prerogative to either accept the RFP or to send it back to the staff. Our recommendation is that this contract be awarded and then we proceed with this work. It will just get more expensive as years go by, and we have invested quite a bit of resources already into this project. It is the right solution for this location.
thank you to both of you for your responses.
Councillor Story, followed by Councillor Bondi, then Councillor Finn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks to Marissa and Edward and the team for their extended work on this. Certainly from my perspective, it is an expensive project, but infrastructure, as we see every week, is really, really expensive and not getting any less expensive, unfortunately. And from a traffic safety perspective, personally, I will usually support anything that we're doing to bring our roadways, both highways and in our communities, up to modern infrastructure safety standards. Not that they're not right now, but to improve them to even more modern designs. Generally speaking, I'm happy to see this moving forward. I travel this route a lot. I have a lot of family in the Tilbury area, and that intersection is deadly. There have been multiple fatal crashes there. Folks pass on the right. There's not some great sightline issues with the overpass and coming up from Merlin Town Line approaching southbound. So I'm looking forward to this being completed for a whole bunch of reasons. A few quick questions to build on Councillor Anderson's questions. With the design of the roundabout, you mentioned that the successful tender construction firm has experience in this, and they'll be designed to make sure that the large heavy vehicles like transport trucks, like combines, heavy agricultural, heavy farm equipment will be able to navigate that roundabout safely and effectively?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So, yes, so the design has been completed and has been designed to accommodate large vehicles and specifically farm equipment. So that construction will conform to the design, which does accommodate it. During staging of works, there will be periods where we will have some disruptions to traffic, and that's a bit of what Councillor Anderson noted is there is coordination we need to undertake with the properties in the area in terms of when we might have closures of Merlin or the full closure of the intersection. So there may be periods during the construction process where not all that traffic can be accommodated, but certainly that final product of the intersection improvements will permit larger vehicles and specifically farm equipment to travel through.
Thank you. That's good to hear. Thank you. In terms of, I know we've discussed this before, but we have received communication from residents and constituents about if traffic lights are cheaper, and I don't always support the cheaper option if it's not as safe, especially when it comes to highway safety. But would it be possible, perhaps Marissa or Edward, to just, so we can share with the folks at home why we're choosing a roundabout versus a four-way stop or a traffic lights? Would that be possible to give us just a quick reminder about why we're moving forward the way we are?
Yeah, certainly I can speak to that. So there's a few reasons. So as it's been discussed, this intersection's been studied quite a bit. Back in 2021, when we undertook a study of the collision history, we had identified that there had been a total of 23 collisions over a 10-year period, which is quite extensive. A number of those are the more severe type, turning movement ankle collisions. Roundabouts are ideal in terms of how they change the interactions we'd have with vehicles. So we eliminate some of those more severe conflict points with vehicles. We don't see right angle collisions because we have different movements, and so they reduce the frequency and severity of the types of collisions we'd see at the intersection. I can also speak to, in the earlier assessments, when both a traffic signal or roundabout had been considered, it had been identified that either case would have required realignment of the intersection, sort of been spoken to that there are some geometric constraints with the bridge and all of the sort of intersecting roads at that location. And so either case would have required realignment of the intersection. So there's quite a bit of construction with building up, if you can imagine sort of what the road is for Merlin Road coming in, building that up with kind of a realignment of that road in either case.
So it wouldn't necessarily be that much cheaper to have gone with the traffic light because of that realignment, and the roundabout is safer. Thank you. This is my last question. Now, ideally, we wouldn't have to worry about this because there would be a concrete median barrier all the way between Merlin and London, but that's for another day. But when there is a 401 closure, due to an incident on the 401, and that EDR, that emergency detour route, is enacted. During the construction phase, will the MTO or the OPP or any of the provincial bodies responsible for the 401, will they be notifying you or the construction site folks so they are prepared and aware that there is an EDR being utilized at that time? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly there will be extensive coordination with the MTO. That's already ongoing. And when we do have full closure of the intersection and we may not be able to permit traffic through there, we will be coordinating directly with the MTO because advance notice, notification signs to the motorists in terms of identifying those detours. We'll need to work through that. So there will be extensive coordination with the MTO as we're implementing our phases of work through this area.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. My question was, what's wrong with the intersection for like $7 million? But I think you've kind of answered that. So those numbers, of course, I wouldn't know this, but what was it, 27 crashes or something, or 21?
So it was 23 collisions in a 10-year period, and since then we've had at least 4 more collisions documented. So
and that's high.
20, yeah, it is quite a few.
Okay, yeah, sorry, the reason I'm asking is in the report it says, operational safety and improve the intersection. I thought, well, a lot of them could use improvement, but you've got the numbers, so that answers that, so thank you very much.
Seeing no other questions, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 15 to 1.
Item 17, Development Services.
17A, Wheatley Revitalization Update, September 2024. And I'll call upon Stuart McFadden, Director of Economic Development, to introduce the presenter.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff and members of council. I don't want to take too much of the excitement away from the presentation, but I just wanted to remind everybody that I think everybody in this room understands where they were the night of August 26 in 2021 when Wheatley experienced just a devastating explosion and what it has done to the community and one of the reasons why we're here tonight. And I also want to remind people that from an economic development point of view, we didn't have a real program to go to. We worked really hard with the Ministry of Economic Development to design something that was specific for Wheatley. And they've never done it before either. So we really got a lot of support from the province. And I just want to make sure that's aware that the 35 businesses and 20 commercial landlords and 4 not-for-profits over the period of time, we provided through our office over $7.2 million worth of financial support for those affected inside of that area. Going, for the housing, I know has received support as well, and we have for the engineering. But truly, from an economic development point of view, we've been supported and come up with a program on the fly. And it became easy to see that Wheatley it wasn't just getting through where they are now, but how we're going to go through tomorrow. And we needed a dedicated person for that. And the province provided us with $450,000 to hire a person and to help with some programming so that the community can come together and vision about what the future might look like. And we're very excited and happy to have Kira. She has a very extensive project management background. She has worked across Canada in various communities and helping them vision. She has extensive experience working with First Nations, and she's been a delight to work with. And I just want to introduce you to Ms. Kira Knapp.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Thank you so much for having me here. It's been a really wonderful last 6 months working with the community of Wheatley, and it's a special community, and I'm excited to talk about what we've been working on. And I wanted to take some time as well to acknowledge the members of the Wheatley Task Force that have joined us today, virtually and in person. So in person we have our chair, Howard Gabert, we have Jennifer Dawson, and we have Chad Wiper, and of course Councillor Anderson, all of whom have been exceptionally supportive, and also the municipality and the staff of the municipality who've been instrumental as we move forward. So I'm so thankful that Stuart talked a little bit about the background for those of you who weren't aware. What we've been tasked with as a task force and myself as an economic development officer is to help come up with a community action plan that address some key concerns. So not just how we could build back what was lost, but build the community back better. And really that's been rooted in consultation with the community. It's been rooted in the voices of the community, and we've had such exceptional success with some of the outreach that we've done, and Wheatley is, the community is so excited about what's happening next. And for those of you who aren't aware, some of the site remediation work or some of the site exploration work started last week, so we spent some time with the crews and hearing not only the crews that came in from out of province, but our own municipal staff, like really talking about the community like a family, and I think that that's just like something that is so overwhelming and special. So we have, I mentioned the Wheatley Task Force, so I'm kind of reporting to the task force and the municipality, and I think what that has really allowed us to do is, in a way that is innovative, that has happened in some of the other projects that have happened across Chatham-Kent, is stay ingrained in the community. So again, I mentioned that I was here since March, so it's been a whirlwind 6 months. What we've also been able to do is work out what can we do and how can we not only plan for the future, but root it in data. So not just community consultation, but some data that we've seen and what has worked across the province. Some of what we've done is a business mix analysis, so quantifiable and quantitative data that supports what types of businesses do we need in the community, not just based on people's shopping preferences, but actually what's the numerical percentage of those businesses succeeding in a community of our similar size and scale. And that, I think, is really going to help support with some of the business attraction, business retention, business expansion efforts that we're looking at doing. It also looks at the strengths, what are our gaps, and really came through that there were some not immediate gaps that we would have necessarily noticed, but for example, the services in the community, like service industry, and how we can also help find programs or find projects that will help support those businesses moving forward. So we also did a resident trade report survey, which looked very specifically at what are the residents, how do they shop, what are their habits, what can we learn about the people in the community, and we had over 360 responses to that survey, which was fantastic. And then we also did a visitor survey, so we collected information from folks that came and visited or were seasonal residents in the community. So it's available for public viewing. It will inform some of our future strategic initiatives, and then will all sort of form the basis of some of the community action plan. So what's happening now? What's happening next? As we mentioned, the excavation work started. We completed our surveys. We also completed a number of in-person community consultations, which had approximately 30 residents that attended each of the consultations, and different residents as well, so we're not seeing the same people. We've hosted monthly coffee chats, and we are doing specific outreach and focus groups with the businesses in the community as well. Once we have a little bit more information about what's happening in the direct downtown core, and I should have mentioned this perhaps a little bit earlier, but this plan of action for the community is not just limited to the explosion site. We're really looking at how does the community interact with it itself, how do we draw people in, how do we make it a vibrant place for residents and visitors to the community, and how does that look cohesive, and how is it aligned with the municipal plans that we're going to be putting forward over the next couple of years. So over the next couple of months, we are looking at having a final draft of our community action plan completed and available for review. We'll begin an urban visioning project. So we're hopeful that that will commence in and around November, and that will be basically to bring in technical experts that can help us plan some of those next steps of how we're going to rebuild the downtown as we define it through sort of a CIP lens. And then looking at some of how are we going to monitor and evaluate the success of the project so that we can not only bring that information back to the residents, but also to our funders, to the province, to the municipalities, so that we know that what we're doing is aligned with key performance indicators and best practice. So not only are these efforts looking at, again, addressing the physical reconstruction of the community, but then how do we work, especially from a trauma-informed perspective, with a community that's been through an awful lot, and how do we help socially revitalize the community? How do we help inspire and activate community groups? And Wheatley has an amazing spirit of volunteerism as well, so already thrilled to have made connections with a lot of the community organizations. And then, I mean, the ongoing question is how are we going to leverage funding that's available potentially through the province, through the federal government? How do we speak to our MPs and MPPs about how are we going to actually make this project happen through the municipality? What is that going to look like? What's something that's fiscally responsible, but also that's going to do the job that we need to do in the community? And then, I guess, the implementation of our community action plan over the next year. So I think that's what really we're going to start seeing over 2026, 2025. I'm really jumping ahead. So over 2025, we're looking at how are we going to take the steps that we need to do to grow the community. I've already mentioned some of these things, so I don't want to take too much time, but community engagement and having conversations with the people in the community, with businesses, is a large mandate of what we're doing, and I think the task force has really supported having the conversations with the community. They're highly responsive. They have an active Facebook page. They are volunteers in all different sorts of organizations across the community and have really helped amplify the work that we're doing and ask questions and ask engaged and informed questions, and having, I think, multiple people wearing those sorts of hats are very, very exciting. And we've also committed back to the community that we'll not only take their information or their thoughts, but we'll provide them back how we're going to implement that feedback. If it doesn't make sense, why? Just so that folks know that we've been listening to them, that they know that this is what the community has wanted, and it's really become something special to hear these ideas and thoughts come together, and there's really is a unified voice in the community of some of the things that they'd like to see. So that's been a really vibrant part of what we're doing. So I'm going to skip over some of the stuff I've already talked about because I'm well off script now. But we have also been committed to updating through multiple modalities. So a monthly newsletter through the task force. I go to all the active citizen meetings. We have obviously the Wheatley Updates Let's Talk page that we update quite regularly. And then we also have been connecting with folks that have access to the subscription service for Wheatley. So we really try to be engaged and let people know what's happening, and especially at such a crucial time in the remediation or the excavation work that's happening on site. And I did want to touch on what's happening on the site and how we're communicating to the people in the community. So the fire department and Councillor Anderson went door to door to the businesses and residents that were affected. There were letters that were mailed out. So really keeping people informed at a high touch level, which I think is really important, and it's very much aligned with what you would hope to see always, and like using a trauma-informed perspective with their path forward with a community that's gone through something like this. And I mean, the municipal website, and look how good that looks. So I don't want to take up too much more of anybody's time, but I also wanted to talk about one of the things that's overwhelmingly come back from the community is the importance of being accessible, being inclusive, having a welcoming community, and I've seen that. So making sure that we are approaching not only the consultations, but how we move forward from a very equity-based lens, and ensuring that the needs and voices of community members, including the communities who, the Indigenous folks at Caldwell First Nation, whose traditional territory Chatham-Kent sits on in Wheatley, and making sure that those perspectives are being taken into account and sort of doing that meaningful consultation work. And I think that's probably on my next slide. Oh yeah, it is. I was good. And I think that's all I want to wrap it up with, and take some time if anybody has questions or comments, and maybe drink some water.
Councillor Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Kira, thank you, and Stuart for your presentation. I just want to reiterate a few of the things that you said about, you know, this really has been approached not only by administration and by council and the fire department and the province, not only with the technical, you know, support, but also with a lot of compassion. And I think that that has shown throughout this entire process. And, you know, it really goes a very long way to the people of our community and how it makes us feel. And I just want to again reiterate the appreciation from the people of Wheatley and from our community. And we are so thankful to have you, Kira, and all the cool things that you've already been able to do with us, and to the Wheatley Task Force and to the VIA and all of these other community groups that are all continuing to come together and work together with support from council and from administration. So it's a really positive time in our little village. So everyone's pretty smiles around there. So thank you.
Councillor Story?
Thank you, Kira, for a great presentation. I'm so impressed with this. Kira and I worked together in another lifetime many moons ago, and I was impressed with you then, and I was so thrilled to hear you were joining the team for this project as well. So thank you for all the work you're continuing to do. This whole process shows the importance of extensive communication and community consultation and engagement, and just a best practice that I would love to see us follow for any project, to be honest, especially proposals of this scale. It really is critically important and clearly helps with buy-in and support in the community. And just to say how important and hard to believe it's been just over 3 years, but it has shown what a devastating disaster can truly be transformed into a great example of community spirit and resilience, and really how to work together for a common goal. And to all the municipal staff, I know there are so many over the years that have helped with this. Obviously Ryan Brown, Stewart, Chief Case, first responders and their teams, but also I wanted to recognize Councillor Anderson, who has been an amazing advocate for her community around this horseshoe from day one. So I want to give you your flowers, because you have done an amazing job as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Seeing no other questions, we'll go on to item 18, Infrastructure and Engineering Services.
18A, Chatham-Kent Dreamfield Project Update.
Councillor Juneville, you had a question?
Yeah, just one easy question. It does say in the report that the administration will be meeting with the Chatham Minor Soccer Association. Just wondering when that's going to be happening, and will it be an in-person meeting? And will the municipality be looking to find alternate fields for the soccer players to be playing on?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rob Pollock, Director for Parks, Fleet, and Facilities. Yes, so we will be meeting with them in the near future and before we come back to council with the project and going over any of the issues that would cause for them, yes.
So will they be, or will we be finding other soccer fields for them? Or are they kind of left to their own device?
No, so we'll be meeting with them to fully understand what their needs are. Be working on other solutions if this project goes forward, once we bring that back, and going forward with that. So we'd have all those details in the report that we come back with. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Item 21, corporate services.
21A, Strong Mayor Powers Update.
Councillor Juvenville and Councillor McDonald, can I put this on the floor, please?
I so move.
Happy to second.
Councillor Juvenville?
Yeah, just a couple quick questions. Do we have any idea as to how long the strong mayor powers will be imposed on the participating municipalities in the province? Or is there an end to the pledge?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, we are not aware of any ending date.
Okay, and it also mentioned in the report that the administration is in the process of reviewing and potentially amending the code of conduct for council. Will council have the chance to provide their own input to the potential amendment before it comes back to council for final consideration?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are currently working with our Integrity Commissioner, Suzanne Craig. She has reviewed it and has some amendments that she'd like to bring forward. We did reach out to council, this was a while ago, first into our term, and asked if there were any comments, but we will draft something and get the draft to you before it comes to the floor.
Okay, thank you very much.
Seeing no other questions, we'll put it to vote.
And Mr. Mayor, just to indicate because we are approving the procedural bylaw, the procedural bylaw requires a majority vote for passing.
2/3?
Yes, sorry, you're correct, 2/3.
Okay, thank you.
All votes are in, motion passes 15-0.
Notice of motion, Councillor Scotchy.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Whereas the barrier beach structure holds water back in extreme wave action from significant acres of farmland and residential and commercial development and protects important marine habitat, and whereas the concerns have been identified by multiple reports, including the Conservation Authority report and the Zuzik report, and whereas the municipality has continued to have dialogue for the concerns that have been identified to be addressed, be it resolved that council and the mayor work with the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority to assist in drafting a letter signed by the mayor and supported by council to the DFO, MECP, Parks Canada, the Small Craft Harbor Authority, and the Ministry of Environment, as well as the provincial and federal governments advocating for remediation and resolution, noting the extreme importance of the matter, stressing the importance to many communities within the municipality of Chatham-Kent.
Closed session reports. Councillor Crew and Councillor Doyle.
Council received information on security of the proper municipality regarding cyber security update, section 239-2A, the Municipal Act. I so move.
I so second.
See any questions? We'll put it to vote.
All votes are in, motion passes 16-0.
Communication items. Councillor Crew and Councillor Doyle, can I get you to put them on the floor, please?
So move.
So second.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Non-agenda business. Keep your hands up just 1 second.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. This will make sense once, just give me a minute. So, the first time I rode a horse, I was 50 years old, right? So, now here I am, I'm employed at TJ Stables and I help them out, I volunteer and stuff. So, in that time, I've been introduced to the Canadian Cowgirls, which I'm sure everybody's heard of. And it's an amazing operation to watch. And that's really what well, I got a bit of an education a couple weekends ago. I volunteered to be the ground crew at a like a rodeo, and it was called the Tweed Stampede. And the work and the effort that these girls put into this is unbelievable. Like, I don't know that I'll do that again, but you know, they do it over and over, week after week after week. There's a big schedule. They were somewhere up north this weekend, 2 degrees, rain, and they suffer through it. Now, the point of why I'm saying all this, guys, is this was brought to my attention at this rodeo thing that I was at. So these are provided by Stuart McFadden, Economic Development. And what the Cowgirls do is after their performance, they hand these out, and these little kids come up and they get their autographs. And it's really neat. And basically, it has Chatham-Kent's logo and Visit Chatham-Kent, Ontario. So I really just wanted to recognize them for what they do and how they represent our community, and have been doing it for, like, I don't want to say generations, but cycles of different riders. So this is an ongoing thing that Terry Jenkins has continued to promote and keep going. And again, these girls are not paid. They do this voluntarily. They take up their weekends doing this stuff, and it's all about Canada, obviously Canadian Cowgirls, but they strongly promote the municipality. And in their when they give a talk at the end when they're thanked, it's always about Chatham-Kent. And I'd just like to read a little bio on these guys, if you'd allow me. It won't take just a second, and then I'll be all done. So here we go. The award-winning Canadian Cowgirls of Chatham-Kent, Ontario are an elite rodeo-style precision riding team consisting of dazzling women and their horses, performing daring musical drills and spectacular glittering costumes. They have been called Canada's jewels. The Canadian Cowgirls stir a sense of national pride wherever they ride, and when they perform in the United States, the horse becomes a friendly ambassador representing Canada, Chatham-Kent, and reaching out to touch the hearts of our neighbors south of the border. The team has practiced long hours working towards perfection of timing, spacing, and precision, and comprises a dedicated and disciplined group of experienced horsewomen tied together by a common bond, the love of family, country, and horse. The spectacular award-winning team has performed at events including the famous Calgary Stampede, winning first place for best horse entry out of 850 horses, Cirque du Soleil performance at the Lexington, Kentucky Horse Park. The Cowgirls were chosen to stand honor guard for His Majesty King Charles and Queen Camilla during their recent visit to Canada a couple years ago. They escorted the Olympic torch and appeared on the Rick Mercer Report. The Cowgirls were invited to represent Canada in the granddaddy, I didn't write that, of them all. I wish I did. The Tournament of Roses Parade, New Year's Day 2013 in Pasadena, California. The team takes great pride in their documentary filmed by the Canadian Armed Forces to boost morale to our servicemen and women overseas and have performed at military bases all over North America. The Canadian Cowgirls do not only ride for themselves, the Cowgirls devote many volunteer hours and the use of their horses to the Exceptional Riders Therapeutic Riding Program in Chatham to share their love of riding with riders with special needs. And that's it, and I just wanted to applaud them and thank them for all they do, and they are unpaid again, and they're really dedicated. Thank you.
Councillor Anderson, followed by Councillor Scotchy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take a quick moment to acknowledge the passing of one of our very active community members, Grant Bowman, passed this morning. If you were to look up the definition of a community advocate and a volunteer, I'm sure that his name is there. He has inspired so many members of our community to continue to be a part of it and advocate for things that we want and things we can do and see the dream. And even his own family members. His son is the president several times over of the Wheatley BIA. His grandson sits on the Wheatley Task Force, and his other grandson sits on the Talbot Trail Golf Course Board of Directors. So he has, among other things with his other family members, I'm sure. I think that it's really, really important. We talk about the importance of having really active community members, and this is something that's been generational with Grant Bowman, and as much as we will be sorry to not have him around anymore, he's certainly leaving a legacy of a really wonderful community life lived, and our condolences to his family and his friends.
Councillor Scotchy, followed by Councillor Jumeville.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Last week, Councillor Crew and myself had a somber experience in assisting in raising the flag for childhood cancer. It's definitely one of those topics that are extremely difficult, but all members of council have received a gold ribbon from the Betterly family, who unfortunately lost their son to cancer, and who are a big advocate for Child Can. The gold symbol is recognizable in regarding a precious metal, just as the children who are our most precious treasure. And I just wanted to take a second to recognize all the families and the youth that are going through this very challenging times. Thank you.
Councillor Juvenville, followed by Councillor Story.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I just have a couple of things. First, just wondering if we can get an update on the present status of the encampment on Thames Street and the unfortunate fire that happened at 99 McNaughton, just so the public knows where we're at with everything.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to start with the fire at 99 McNaughton. As many of the community knows, approximately a week and a half ago, a significant fire went through 99 McNaughton, and 125 tenants or households have been displaced. Staff have been working as hard as they possibly can. We have redeployed staff who have full-time responsibilities on other matters to assist on this. Since the fire, approximately 90 tenants have received emergency housing. We are also very thankful for the others who were able to stay with friends and family. As of last night, 46 households remain in shelter or hotels. And when I say shelter, the Red Cross continues to operate the evacuation shelter. 22 tenants were assisted into moving into retirement homes. This is not permanent, but it's a safer place for them at the time being. 7 have been assisted in signing short-term leases in the community, and 6 others were offered internal transfers within our community housing stock. We are hopeful that in the coming weeks we're able to provide more positive news, and our goal right now is to do everything we can so that no one ends up in the encampments that are in CK because of the lack of housing and support services. I very much appreciate the tenants' patience with us. This has been a monumental task. We are doing everything we can, but given the size and the scope of the numbers, it is certainly taking us longer to respond to emails and inquiries for all of our services. So we appreciate the community's patience with this, and also very grateful to the community providers and volunteers who have assisted us. Emmanuel Baptist Church in opening and allowing us to do a reception center, the Red Cross and their volunteers for the very hard and long nights that they're putting in taking care of CK residents. Before I move on, are there questions with that? Okay. And secondly, with respect to encampments in CK, speaking with staff today, we know of 10 plus encampments across the community. I know there's one near Harvey's that is certainly getting the most attention right now, but is certainly not the only one in the community. There are over 80 people who have nowhere to stay tonight and will continue to be in encampments. Staff continue, and we are continuing to work on updated protocols. If you are looking at media reports across the province, I feel that every community is in the same boat in looking at how best we can reduce the harms that encampments are posing on our communities. Given the fire, though, it has delayed our ability to get back to council. We did do a Let's Talk page and a survey because this is a community problem, and we want to capture the voice of all CK residents. And I would like to share that over 800 responses were received. So at this time we are diligently going through each one so that we can review and ensure that is reflected in our report. But I also want to take the opportunity to say that there's a very large, I think, community awareness. CK residents are concerned with the situation, and for those who are engaged and those who want to be engaged, there is solvethecrisis.ca, and I would encourage any CK resident interested in this topic to first go there and continue their engagement on the subject. We do expect to be back in the early October with our updated encampment protocols.
Thanks. I just want to add to that, that there was an article out recently that the government, the provincial government did an estimate of the number of homeless in Ontario. They conservatively estimate there's 235,000 homeless people in the province of Ontario, and they said that is a conservative estimate. That's not including the people that every night they might have to go sleep on a couch here or there, And in the article as well, it talked about how it's going to get worse. So I really want to emphasize, we experience it here, but we're experiencing it everywhere. It's terrible across the province, across the country, in fact, across the world. So when I saw that article, just really, when you put that kind of number to it, just blows your mind. So, thank you. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, Josh, for all that information. And I just want to make a bit of a statement. A local investigative reporter has issued a few detailed articles in a local Chatham-Kent paper with information relating to Freedom of Informations, indicating some members of CK Council, including myself, another councillor, and our mayor, along with parts of administration, have been in contact with York One prior to council having knowledge of its existence, prior to council and Dresden, the community of Dresden and Chatham-Kent, prior to its existence in Dresden on Irish School Road. While I want to offer my respect to this reporter and any investigative reporter for their difficult and diligent work that they do, I want to clarify one key item that is creating a lot of noise in the community. I did not have any knowledge of the expansiveness of this project until earlier this year, when York One was obligated to divulge the details of the project to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, along with issuing notices to nearby residents of the property. This is when I as well found out about the details of York One's project. I have never denied knowledge about York One owning the property and purchasing it 3 weeks after I became a councillor in December of 22, but my knowledge of the gravity and expansiveness of their intentions at this site only came to be earlier this year when we received notice from the ministry and along with everyone else. So I just wanted to clarify that. I don't know, Mayor, if you want to, you're included in it, so I don't know if you want to.
Certainly, I can add to that. So everyone knows, we meet with a lot of businesses and individuals, and they talk about their plans. So they'll call up and they'll say, we'd love to talk to you about this. We want to purchase this. We want to build that. We want to do this. So we meet with them. We're there to listen. Clearly that any one of these meetings, until that is an actual project, it doesn't come to council. Because I know that I've met with a lot of people and they'll have one plan 1 month and the next month they'll call up and say, we thought about it, it's something different, it's something different again. So that's kind of what's happened there. And to repeat what Councillor Juvenville said, that we met with York One way back before they ever owned the property, and our full expectation is they're going to call us and keep us informed. So all of a sudden we get a notice saying, here, they're doing this. So they never let us know that they acquired it. They never let the administration call up and say anything else. So that's what we said. We're caught off guard completely with what they're planning on doing. So we fully expect that the individuals we talk to are going to communicate two ways on this. But I want to clarify again that there's no commitment made that council is the one that decides on these projects, unless it's in with the bylaws and everything else. There's no need to. It's within the zoning and everything else. But a lot of times it's just talk. So that's why we were completely set off guard when all of a sudden they call it. I find out because they were distributing this brochure to the neighbors. That's how we found out. They didn't call administration. They didn't call anybody else to say, oh, by the way, we're doing this. So to clarify and to go along with what Councillor Juneville said, Mr. Dubin, is there anything else you wanted to add to that, or?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I mean, I certainly agree that we meet with businesses all the time about many things. And imagine for a minute, there are times that we'll meet with businesses over a property that they haven't even acquired yet. And so they don't want us talking about it. And then the next day we'll meet it with somebody else about the same property that they haven't acquired yet. So there are a number of reasons why a lot of these things don't come forward until such time as they go through a formal process. I can assure you that when staff meet with any prospective businesses or ideas, we always tell them what the process is going to be and who they need to speak to when the time comes for that matter to actually go ahead. I don't know if Stuart is still here, but Stuart spends hours meeting with people, often with all kinds of ideas, often the same idea coming from different people, which makes you wonder how that's possible. So it's not at all uncommon for municipalities to have staff, sometimes the mayor and staff, usually economic development. Planners go through this all the time. People speculate all the time. There are many, many projects that come forward, and it's like selling encyclopedias for AcDev, which is that out of every 20 people that come and talk to you about what they want to do on a particular corner in Chatham-Kent, maybe one will actually go somewhere. And when it does go somewhere, it goes through the process. It comes here, it goes through usually an application process of some sort, and then eventually comes to council. So it's not unusual at all. And I just wanted to confirm that from a administrative side. With respect to York 1, I've been here 2 years now. I've never met with anyone from York 1 ever. So that tells you that if there were any discussions at high levels with administration, it must have been at least 2 years ago. And even then, I can assure you, even though I wasn't here, that it would have come to council had it been something that was at that stage where it needed council approval.
Councillor Story.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to mention a couple of community events. On Saturday, as part of the Taste of Chatham-Kent, I went to the Roots and Rhythm Festival at Yardy Vibes in Chatham. And I went to the Malayali Festival of Onam, which was held at Ferguson Park in Thamesville. And the weather was a bit chilly, but there was a good turnout, and so I want to thank both of those organizations for hosting such interesting events. The Onam Festival in Thamesville had a very hardcore tug-of-war competition that went on for a really long time with kids and men versus women and men versus men and the union jiu-jitsu team versus the folks there. It was quite impressive, highly entertaining and fun. So I thank everyone for organizing that part of Taste of Chatham-Kent. I know that is continuing. I think Mayor Ken, if you may know a few more details about that, but I think that is continuing for the next couple of weeks. And also to let folks know there are about 2 flag raisings this Friday. Flag raising for Legion Week this Friday at 10 a.m. right here at the Civic Center, which is basically to raise awareness about the contributions of Legion branches across Canada. Most of us have Legions in our communities that do really great work, and I'm a proud Legion member in Chatham. So that's 10 a.m. on Friday, and then at, make sure I get this, 12:30 on Friday, is Chatham-Kent Welcome Week flag raising, and that's an opportunity to connect newcomers to services across Chatham-Kent and to celebrate their contributions to the community through storytelling and promote diversity in our community. So lots of great activities happening for Welcome Week as well. So hope to see you at Taste of Chatham-Kent, Legion Week, or Welcome Week. Lots going on. Thank you very much, and thanks to all the volunteers and staff that help make these possible. Thank you.
Councillor C. McGregor.
And on that good note and of wonderful things going on across Chatham-Kent, I would just like to mention that in Wallaceburg at our brewery, at Glasstown Brewery, they'll be hosting the Riverfest this weekend. So if you're into craft beers, they will also be hosting all of the other breweries in Chatham-Kent at this event. There'll be live music going on all day. Great place to arrive by boat or by land, and should be a fun weekend and entertaining at the brewery this weekend. So if you stop by, I'll see you there.
And I'll add one thing, Crowfest. I'm sure everybody's heard about it. The 20th, 21st are the big days, Friday and Saturday. There's some events leading up to it. Downtown Chatham will be closed for Friday afternoon and all day Saturday. There'll be buskers, including a pretty amazing trampoline act. It's free, come on down. Bring your family, bring your friends. It's going to be an amazing event, and look forward to seeing you there. Also, so first in the reading of the bylaws, first and second reading. Councillor Hall and Councillor Wright. Can I get you to move that, please?
So moved. I'll second it, thank you.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Third and final reading, Councillor Thompson and Councillor Allen.
So moved. So seconded.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Resolution of council, Councillor Crew, and can I get Councillor C. McGregor to wrap it up for us?
I move that Chatham-Kent Council adjourn to its next meeting to be held Monday, September 23rd, 2024, and that Chatham-Kent Council authorize itself to meet in closed session on that day to discuss any matters permitted by the municipal act. I so move.
And I so second.
Anyone opposed to wrapping up at 7:26? Seeing none, Have a great evening.